Your sales team complains about bad leads, but they are symptoms of a much bigger disease within your company right now. Now, during this video, we'll diagnose the operational breakdowns that are starving your team of real opportunities and what you can do to fix them. My name is Justin James. Over the last 10 years, I've had the pleasure of training thousands of entrepreneurs all across the world, literally taking what I used to do as a psychiatric nurse and place that into the art of selling. Because at the end of the day, when you know how to influence people, you can influence people. And the beauty of this stuff is something that I call my invisible sales method. And I'm going to break down some of those concepts with you in this video right now. And as a result of doing all this stuff, I've personally generated over 22 million in sales using this stuff. And my clients have gone on to generate over 200 million and growing using the invisible sales method. So let's get stuck into it. Now, why do I say with conviction that your sales team is failing right now and it's a disease within your organization? Well, here's the thing. Let's be perfectly honest. Marketing will send leads through to the sales team. The sales team won't close a lot of these leads and they'll blame marketing. Marketing will go back to the sales and say, you guys can't close. So we have this war going on where the marketers are blaming the salespeople and the salespeople are blaming the marketers. Now, that's a whole different issue. And if I haven't done so already, I'll record a video on that at a later date. Now, here's the thing. What we have to understand is we cannot keep blaming the leads, okay? Now, yes, there is some feedback in this. Now, what do I mean by that? If you are constantly getting people jumping on a call who are actually not your ideal client, as in they don't even match up with what you're selling, then they shouldn't be there. You need to go back to the marketing team and go, hey, I think we're getting the wrong types of people coming through here. We need to sort this out. However, if somebody waved their hand and say they've got a problem, they've maybe got a budget or something, or they're willing to find the money, they want to have it solved, and your sales team do not close that lead, then we can't just blame the prospect. We need to look at ourselves. We need to look in the mirror, right? It's very, very important. Now, what I've discovered over the years as a psychiatric nurse is it's not about scripts. It's not about processes. It's not about systems. It's all about you doing two things. Number one, understanding human behavior. And number two, being a great conversationalist. Because back in my days when I was on a ward, I didn't have time to follow a procedure. I didn't have time to follow a script when someone was hearing voices and wanting to attack one of the staff or attack another patient or attack me even. I didn't have time to go, hang on a second, let me just whip out the procedure. What's the procedure to deal with this? I didn't have time for all of that stuff. What I needed to do was be able to respond accordingly based on what I was observing from that person, looking at their behavior, and then using my words to be able to de-escalate that situation and move out of it elegantly. And the key around that is being a great conversationalist and obviously understanding human behavior. And that has gone out the window in sales because most of your sales team right now are relying on a script. They're literally reading off of a script, or they are having conversations with people, but they are not having conversations with people because conversations are a two-way street. You speak and you listen. And I don't think that they're listening to actually hear what's going on. They're listening so that they can move on to the next step of the script or the process, for example, right? So this is the problem. If you are completely disconnected from the prospect, how can you have a real life conversation with this person, actually find out what their problems are, genuinely show them that you care about them, and then prescribe them the right solution for their problem? You can't do that because otherwise you sound like a freaking robot if you're just going to go for a script. So how do we fix this problem? Well, first and foremost, most of your sales team right now, if you're watching this or if you're a sales rep yourself, most sales reps ultimately are not in charge of their emotional state. Plain and simple. Okay, they've been bashing out the phones all day. They've been outbounding. They've been prospecting. They've been having the phone slammed down on them. They've been having people ghost them at meetings or ghost them on calls. And you're there waving their KPIs in their face and telling them, you've got to do 100 dial outs today. You've got to have X amount closed. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. And yes, of course, you need KPIs. And of course, you need to drive your team. I get all of that stuff. But what kind of mood are they in on call number 50 when calls 0 to 49 have been horrible to them or haven't picked up the phone or slammed the phone down on them? What do you think their mood's going to be like by call 50? Not going to be good, right? So at the end of the day, most salespeople are actually operating from a low vibration. Now, interesting enough, I bet you, all of your teams right now, when they're flying high, when the sales are coming in, when the energy's high, when they're ringing that bell in the office or whatever it is that you guys do when you close a deal, when that's happening, What tends to happen to the close rate after that? It starts to go up and up and up and up. Why do you think that is? Same procedure, same script, same methodology. What's changed? State. That's all that's changed. Their emotional state. They're in a completely different state. They're on fire. You ever been on fire? You ever been on fire before where you're on fire and like, yeah, man, I'm on a roll? It's the same thing in this. When they're not on a roll, it's affecting the next call and the call after that and the call after that and the call after that. And before you know it, a bad day turns into a bad week. A bad week turns into a bad month turns into a bad quarter turns into a bad year. Not cool. Now, what do? Fire the person, go and get someone else. And the vicious cycle starts over and over and again. So the first thing we need to do with our teams right now is to go and help them with their emotional state, because at the end of the day, your state will affect your fate. Write that down if you're taking notes, okay? Your state will affect your fate, especially in sales. So let me break down the psychological reasons of what's going on with your state. Whenever your state is in a low vibration mood, so for example, you're feeling down, you're feeling like your self-worth is low, feeling upset, you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling annoyed, whatever it is, which is what a lot of sales reps do, when you're feeling like this, that state will affect your decisions. Your decisions will affect your behavior will affect your results. It's plain and simple. So if you want better results, you've got to behave better. If you want to behave better, you've got to make better decisions. If you want to make better decisions, you've got to be in a better state when you make those decisions. Now, what triggers their state in the first place? Very simple. It's their interpretation of the situation at hand. What do I mean by this? Well, ever heard of the phrase glass half empty or half full? Okay, that's just a perspective shift. That's all it is. Same glass, two people are looking at it, both have different perceptions. One thinks it's half empty, one thinks it's half full. It's exactly the same when it comes to sales. Look, you can't stop people from hanging up on you. You can't stop people from not picking up the phone. You can't stop people from ghosting you particularly. Well, you can if you've got a solid procedure in place, which I'll save for a different video. But my point is this. So lots of things are going to happen which are beyond the control of you or your sales team. You can't control any of those things. The only thing we can control is our perception of it at the time. So these things aren't going to go away. So the biggest thing you could do, the biggest lever you can pull right now to help your team completely skyrocket their close rate is to change their perception of things that affect their mood, that affect their state. Now, I'm talking about stuff in the workplace, okay? Now, when I work with my clients, I go a bit deeper than this. I look at stuff outside of the workplace, home life, their personal life, whatever's going on in their world, things that trigger them, their behaviors, the stuff that they do. Because at the end of the day, how you do anything is how you do everything, right? But there are lots of things that trigger an emotional state in us. But let's purely keep it about work at the moment. What are the kind of things that happen at work that affect their state? So it could be people not turning up to calls, people not picking up, high pressure, not hitting their KPIs, all that kind of stuff, whatever it is. So rather than you spend hours and hours and hours and hours role playing with them, teaching them more stuff or trying to get them better at this, the biggest lever you can pull right now is helping them get a new perspective on what's happening to them, because you can't get rid of those things completely. So again, glass half empty or half full. So when somebody ghosts you and doesn't show up, rather than go, oh, this is horrible, like, oh my God, another person ghosted me, I'm not important, that's why they didn't turn up. If I was important, they would have shown up, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. I must not be very good at my job. Oh, actually, maybe it's the marketing team's fault. But rather than go through that perspective, your goal as a sales leader is to shape your rep's perspective on what's happened. Is it possible by someone ghosting you, it's okay to say, you know what, their loss, not mine. In fact, they've actually cleared my diary to allow me to go and do something else with this time and go and prospect some person that's actually serious about solving their problem. That person not showing up is a reflection of them, not me. That person ghosting me, interestingly enough, is probably the same person that doesn't like other people ghosting them. So you know what? I don't even want to work with that kind of person anyway. We don't do our best work with those kind of people. Is it better for you to teach your reps how to give what's happening a new perspective instead? Make sense? Rather than ring people up and feel like you're bothering them, is it possible before you pick them up the phone that you can change the perspective that, hey, every single person that I get to is someone who's willing to listen to me because they have a problem I know I can solve. And whether they buy from me or not, I want to wake them up today to the fact that their problem is going to get 10 times worse unless they do something different about it today. It's all about perspective. So I want you to start working with your teams right now and help them shift their perspective on what's going on in their world. Give them a new view. Give them the glass half full view rather than the half empty. All of the time, we're going to the negative side of things. We don't look at the good in it. It's what we do as human beings. We've got something called negativity bias. It's within us. We're born with it. A 10-month-old baby will stare at an angry face longer than a happy one. It's just how we are. We're wired for that stuff. So often when bad things happen, we don't look for the good in it, we look for the bad. And that's what your sales team are doing right this very minute. Every single time they don't close that deal, every no that they get, every person that ghosts them, every person that doesn't pick up the phone, every rejection that they have, every person who slams the phone down on them, every time you yell at them because they're not hitting their KPIs, all this is doing is negatively reinforcing the fact that they think they're no good anyway. And what you're doing is you're basically ruining them for future calls. And this is why I called it a disease earlier on. It's a disease. And it manifests because here's what happens. That same person who's now infected with this negativity pill, that person is now going around and they're telling their other rep, yeah, the leads are crap, aren't they? Yeah, they are crap, aren't they? Yeah, and they're all doing it. And before you know it, that disease starts to spread within your organization. And you are none the wiser. And all you think is, oh, it's just bad attitude and they're not good at their jobs. Let me go and hire some more people. Because at the end of the day, sales has a very high turnover and you can change all of that. You can change all of that if you look at the person, because it's very easy to just point fingers all the time, especially as a leader. If you're a sales leader right now watching this, it's very easy to point fingers at your team. But what are you doing right now to change their perspective on what's happening right now? Get them to look at it from a good point of view rather than a bad one. Next time someone cancels on them or doesn't show, it's great. Give them a breather. Gives me time to sit back and calibrate and go, right, who else is in my pipeline? Rather than me waste this whole hour and moan about it, this person ghosted me and stood me up, blacklist that person because they shouldn't be allowed to do that again to me. Let me go hunting for somebody else. It's actually, thank you for ghosting me, because by your behavior, you've just told me you weren't a serious person anyway. I probably would have wasted a whole hour talking to you anyway. Now I've got an hour back to go and prospect someone who might actually go and buy from me. Change the state. When you change their state, what's starting to happen now? Even if they get ghosted, they're in a good state. And because they're in a good state, they make better decisions. When they make better decisions, they behave better. When they behave better, they get better results, as in close more deals. Is this making sense to you? So I want you to start looking at how you can help your team do this stuff, okay? It's very, very important. They've got to work on themselves. What are the triggers? Okay, can I shift my perspective to those triggers? Because look, you can spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours trying to work on their mindset and get them to watch motivational videos and all that kind of stuff, which massively help, by the way. Of course, you want to keep the team fired up and pumped up, but it takes time for that stuff to sink in. The quickest way to shift them right now without having to take them off the floor is just by literally telling them, okay, next time you get ghosted, what can you think positive about that instead of being negative? Help them to find some new reframes on that. It's what we call a reframe, when you give something a new meaning, all right, new perspective. You start to do this, my friends, everything starts to shift with your sales team. And that's just one thing I'm pointing out to you. In fact, when I work with my clients using the invisible sales method, we do a lot of work on this before we even start going into listening to their phone calls and listening to their sales calls and analyzing who they're speaking to and looking at reframes and looking at closes and looking at how to ask for the sale and how to present your offer. Those are all great. These are all good mechanics of selling. I get that. But 80% of selling happens in what I call the cultivate phase of my invisible sales method. There's 4 steps to this. There's 4 things that we do. The first one is cultivate. That's 80% of the selling is done there in the beginning. Now, if you're not doing this stuff, it's going to affect the sale, it will affect the close, and it will affect your aftercare as well, because you won't have any clients to look after in your aftercare. This is making sense, okay? So look, I hope this video served you, and I've got something for you. I want to help you. Whether you've got a sales team or whether you are a sales rep right now, look, put your ego to one side. And the reason I'm saying that is because often in sales, especially if you're a sales leader right now, we feel like we're failing our team if we don't have the solution. And bringing someone external like me in could almost undermine you and your position. No, listen, if you are a sales leader right now and you need to bring me into you and your team to work with you guys to get better at having these conversational skills that close deals, to understand human behavior without having to follow a script, then that's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. Why? Because you are great at your job. You just don't know what you don't know. And sometimes, and take it from me as an ex-nurse, as a nurse, we used to have to put our hands up when something was beyond our limits. Okay, we have to work within our limitations. We know what we know. I would never treat a patient using a particular method that I wasn't trained to do. I'd have to accept that I need to work within my limitations. And if I'm not qualified enough to give that kind of treatment, I need to find someone who is. You never try and do something that you're not qualified to do. And it's the same for you. It's not saying that you're weak. You basically don't know what I know. And what I'd love to do right now is, if you are a sales leader, I'd love to coach you and your team. I'd love to pour what I know into you, so then you can go and pour it into the rest of the team. They smash their targets, you smash your targets, you make your team happy, you make your bosses happy, you make your company happy, everyone is freaking happy. And all it takes is me maybe jumping on a call with you guys once a week to figure this stuff out. Implement the invisible sales method into your business. Now, if you're not a sales leader, if you're a sales rep, I can still do the same. I can still work with you. We can talk. We can hang out on our group calls. I can hang out with you one-to-one. It's entirely up to you. This stuff is super simple. It's really quick. You'll be seeing results within the first week. It's so easy to do, okay? But it starts with a conversation, and conversations cost nothing. Now, the beautiful thing about having a conversation with me or my team is we don't pitch to you on our calls. We talk to you. It's very, very different. And if it's something that we want to do, we'll talk about it. If it's not, I'll just give you some advice and off you go. You might not need me after this call. However, what I want you to understand is, don't ghost me, because that's not cool. You don't like getting ghosted either. So somewhere around this video, there's either a link, or if you comment the word sales down below, I will reach out to you, send you some information on the invisible sales method, how you can actually apply to have a conversation with us. And if the criteria fits, we'll have a call. If it doesn't, we won't. That's all good too. But what I'd love to do is help you get what my clients are getting right now every single week, which is more sales in the bank, without having to read scripts, without having to study countless hours of content, and without having to take time off the vital sales floor. Now, if that is you, comment sales down below. I'll reach out to you and we'll have a conversation. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you subscribe and like on your favorite platform. Make sure that you hit that notification bell right here on YouTube as well, if you're watching on YouTube, so that you guys can get notified every single time I drop nuggets like this. So until then, I'll see you on the next one.